everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie and in today's video we're doing another episode of continuing all the book series I'm currently in the middle of. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you will know my goal for the end of the year is to really narrow down and close off a lot of series. So we're going to be doing a lot of vlogs like this, so if it's not your thing, I do apologise in advance. Before I get into the video, please remember to like this video if you enjoy it and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. I primarily read fantasy, thriller and romance books and I post videos every Sunday. So there's 4 books I'm hoping to read in this video. We've got a bit of a mix of genres this time. So the first one is The Play by Elle Kennedy. This is the 3rd book in the Briar U series. I read the off-campus series. I started it early, sort of late last year, finished it this year, and I've carried on with the spin-off series, so I've got 2 left to go. It would be great to get this one done. I've then got The Summer I Saved You by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I mean, it's not really the time of year to be reading this one, but I do love a good romance and it doesn't really bother me when I read things out of season. This is the 2nd book in the summer series. I think it's just called the summer series. I then have Queen Bee by Juno Dawson. This is a very short prequel, it's like novella to the Her Majesty's Royal Coven series. The 3rd and final book comes out around about now. I had a email from Fairy Loot to say it's been preparing to be dispatched. About time I read the prequel and then I can read the final book when that comes out. And then lastly we have Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is the 3rd book in the Imperium series. The 1st book is Fourth Wing. I think I'm going to start with this one actually because it is a non-renewable library book. Hey guys, so I'm just coming in with a reading update for this vlog. So I have started reading Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I'm currently 365 pages into this one, so I am over halfway. I've just got about just under 200 pages left, I think about 180 pages left. So there's no point in me holding this up because it's in my book sleeve. This is the 3rd book in the Fourth Wing series. So obviously I can't say too much about the plot of this one, but Fourth Wing we follow our main character Violet Sorrengail, and she has been destined for the scribe school her whole life. Her father was a scribe and her mother is a very high up general in dragon riding in the military, and her father dies a few years prior to the start of Fourth Wing. Her mother pushes her into entering flight school. Basically she has to compete in, I can't remember what it's called, but basically they have to live or die basically in this challenge, and if they die they die, and if they live they can enter flight training basically. And when I mean flight training I mean dragon riding. So Violet very quickly becomes a initiate in flight school. Years, I think about maybe 20 or so years prior to the start of this book, I can't remember the exact timing, another kingdom rebelled and all of the people that were involved in the rebellion were killed, but their children were not, and the children were marked with something called a rebellion relic. And there are a few of these children who are now sort of late teens, early 20s at this school. One of them is Zayden Ryerson, and his father was actually the leader of the rebellion. They are allowed to learn to fly dragons as well, but obviously they are very heavily watched because obviously they have like this rebellion relic on their neck, I think it is. So Zayden does not like Violet, mainly because Violet's mother is the one who killed his father. So it's like an enemies to lovers. It's a fantasy romance, it's enemies to lovers. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It blew up on TikTok maybe like a year or so ago, and everyone's been loving it. Now I read quite a lot of fantasy books and I don't think this is unique in what it does, but I do think it is actually a really good series. So the 1st book I gave a 4-star rating and I really enjoyed it. The 2nd one I didn't enjoy as much. I thought this leaned heavier towards the romance aspect of fantasy romance, but even then it was more focused on the relationship and more of the difficulties of the relationship that was going on here. So obviously they are enemies who become lovers. That's not really a spoiler. The politics of this were kind of got pushed to the side in the 2nd book, which I really didn't enjoy. I still enjoyed it, but it wasn't my favourite, and I thought if this 3rd book is more of that, it's just more of them arguing about the same thing. It was literally them arguing about the same thing over and over. I thought if it's more of that, then I'm going to call it quits on this series. However, I am enjoying this 3rd one more than the 2nd book, but I do think it's still quite slow. I thought Fourth Wing was paced really well and we were never really left, not bored, that's not what I'm feeling in this book, but it feels like we're taking a long time to really get anywhere. And the fact that we're 360 pages in and we've just kind of not really done a lot really, so I can't go too into details of what our our characters are up to and what's happened, because obviously it's the third book, it would be a spoiler, but one of the aspects are there are dragons, and there's 6 breed of dragons, and they discover a 7th one. Very early on in the book you discover they are trying to find more dragons. Basically they're trying to find this 7th breed, but they're also just trying to find more dragons because there's more riders than they have dragons, and the dragons bond to the riders, they pick the riders, and there's a lot of unbonded dragons, and it's just a whole thing there. So trying to find more dragons, and it seems like they're just kind of wasting a lot of time, and it's more of a way of the author exploring these other kingdoms, basically these other civilizations going on in this world. I'd rather she just had another reason for us to go there. Like, it's just really odd, and like they know that these dragons aren't in a kingdom, but they go there anyway, and they keep doing this, and there's like 6 or 7 kingdoms that we visit, and it's just kind of like, it just seems a bit of a waste of time, really. It's like, if you know they're not there, why are you going? What's the point of this? And it just kind of, it feels like quite a bit filler. So I don't know, like the first bit of this book was really good, and the middle we're just kind of, we're on a bit of a lag, really. So I hope it picks up. There is a lot of interesting stuff that we could be sort of talking about here and could be exploring, and I don't know, maybe I'll eat my words and all of this stuff with the different kingdoms will come back and actually be useful. But yeah, it just seems very, I don't know, I think maybe the author is trying to drag this series out a bit now that Fourth Wing is so popular, like everyone's reading it, and I think she almost wants to drag it out and make more books because of how popular it is. But I think if you want to, I know there's a whole thing about, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent now, but there's a whole thing with fantasy romance, like some people don't think it should be categorized as its own thing, some people do. It's fantasy. I do agree sometimes that people categorize fantasy books written by women as fantasy romance when they're just fantasy. This is, if you want to categorize it as fantasy romance, if you want to have your own genre, like subgenre, I really couldn't care less, like you do you. But I do think that there is a problem in the industry of female authors getting pushed into YA or getting pushed into fantasy romance when they're actually just writing a fantasy book. Now this is, so far, more fantasy than it is romance. Obviously we do have romantic aspects, but you do with like any fantasy book, there is usually like a romantic or a relationship going on. I don't know, I went on a bit of a tangent then, but I think that she's become so popular that she's trying to drag it out a bit now. And I think if you want to keep, I don't want to sound like that, because if you want to keep people who primarily read a lot of fantasy hooked in, you need to go back to what Fourth Wing was about, I think, is what I'm trying to say. If this book is like Fourth Wing, I'll be happy. If this book ends up like Iron Flame, I will not be happy. Mainly because I just don't care about them arguing, because Iron Flame was 600 pages of them arguing about the same thing, and it was just like, please, can we like do something else? All that aside, I went off a complete tangent then. I am enjoying this one so far. I'm hoping to get this one finished maybe today, we'll see, and I'll come and tell you my final thoughts. I'm not really sure where this is going, because I think what the original plot of Fourth Wing was is kind of now very different to this. So I can kind of see aspects of where it's going, and again, I can't really say too much because I don't want to spoil anything. I see aspects of what's going to happen, but the whole thing with visiting the different kingdoms just really threw me off. So I'm just not really sure where this is going to go, but we will find out. So yeah, I am enjoying it. I'm going to carry on and we shall see where it takes us. Hey guys, so I'm just checking back in as I did finish reading Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, and I'm going to give this one a 4-star rating. So I think this was definitely an improvement on Iron Flame, but definitely not as good as Fourth Wing in my opinion. I do think this had a very explosive ending, and I'm very eager to carry on the rest of the series when she does eventually get around to writing them. I do have a few criticisms though, mainly in that it just felt like this plot was all over the place. We kind of did things for the sake of doing things. I think she maybe didn't really know how to introduce things in this world without weaving them into the story very well, I think. And another thing as well is that Xaden becomes a professor at Bagzath College for all of like 300 pages, and it was just like almost there to add tension between Violet and Xaden, or maybe she wanted to write like a kind of forbidden romance, but like it wasn't really forbidden because they're literally like the same age, or there's like a year between them, I can't even remember. So it just felt really odd, like why would you have him as a professor? I don't know, it was just odd choice, and I just like didn't really see the point of it. But otherwise, you know, it was a solid installment. The ending was really good. There was a few things happened in here that I didn't really expect. I'm just interested to see where we are going to go with this story now. So that is this series now I'm fully up to date on. on. Hey guys, so I'm just checking in with a quick reading update for this vlog. So I have started and finished The Play by Elle Kennedy. This is the third book in the Briar You series, and I gave this one a 4-star rating. So in this one we follow Demi and Hunter. Hunter is friends with Fitz from the very first book. He plays hockey with Fitz, and in the first book of Fitz and Summer's story, Hunter has a bit of a thing for Summer, and he does ask her out on a date, and then she has feelings for Fitz, and they both kind of mess Hunter around a bit. So Colin, or Fitz as he's known, says to Hunter that he's not interested in Summer, and Summer says that she doesn't have feelings for anyone else, and they just both kind of mess Hunter around a bit. So the friendship is kind of fragile going into this book. His love interest is Demi, and in the start of this book, Demi is actually already in a relationship. She's been in a relationship with a guy called Nate since they were like 13 basically. They're childhood sweethearts, but they're definitely having issues. Demi, you can tell, is not really very happy in the relationship. She really doesn't trust Nate, and we kind of find out quite early on that Nate has potentially been unfaithful to her in the past, and just a lot of things, like he lies quite a lot, and you know, if he's not happy in the relationship, why doesn't he just say, you know? So very quickly, obviously, we know that Demi and Hunter end up together. This is their love story, but very quickly Demi realizes that Nate is basically playing her for a fool, and I don't want to say like what happens because it is kind of like important to the plot of other relationships in this book, but something happens and Nate and Demi do break up, and her and Hunter begin a friendship. So they begin a friendship as well because they are both in the same, I think it's like a psych class, and they are paired up together because they have to basically role play a therapist and a patient scenario. So they're given a pack each by the teacher, and they have to, one of them plays the therapist who diagnoses the patient, and the patient obviously has to give enough information for the patient, for the therapist to diagnose them. So they are doing this, and Hunter as well pulls on some real life experiences as well. So like I said, I gave this one a 4-star rating. I really enjoyed this one. So we still have hockey as a very important sort of background aspect of this, also just lots of other things as well. We really focused in on them building a friendship first, because like I said, obviously Demi is in a relationship at the start of this book. The only thing I will say is I feel like she didn't have any time to herself. So she breaks up with Nate, and then literally like a month later I feel like she's with Hunter, and it's difficult to tell time in this book because I feel like there's a lot of jumping around that is not really explicitly said. It's just kind of like, oh, it's Christmas now, and oh, it's Valentine's Day. But yeah, I think she moved on a little bit too quickly, but then it's up to her really, I guess. You know, it's her life and her relationship, and they're fictional characters, so it's not actually that deep. But I just think that maybe she should have spent a bit of time with herself before she jumped into something with Hunter. I do think as well the focus on friendships other than a relationship in here was really important, and how just because you're like in a relationship you shouldn't push your friends away. That was a really important sort of aspect of this book. And as usual with Elle Kennedy, there is quite a serious topic at the very end of this book, and I don't want to say what it is, I don't want to spoil anything, but I would definitely check out maybe some reviews of this book or just some like trigger warnings for this, just in case it can affect you. But I think that was handled really well. Like I said, Elle Kennedy always has like a quite serious aspect to her book that I always think she handles really well. I mean, I personally haven't experienced a lot of the things that she talks about, so I can't really say for sure, but from reading them and reading reviews of people who have experienced those things, it seems that she handles them pretty well. So I really enjoyed this one. Like I said, you know, the hockey aspects were really fun, and it's fun to see as well. This one, I feel like we had quite a few cameos from previous characters. So we had a lot of Colin and Summer in this one, and we had quite a bit of Brenna, maybe not so much Jake, but because obviously they live on different campuses, but we had a lot of Brenna in this as well. Rupee and Mike, just, oh my Christ, honestly. I really want a Rupee and Mike book because they're just absolutely crazy, but I want to read about them. I feel like we hear so much about them in this series and we're just not getting our own book, you know? I feel like they deserve their own book. But yeah, I did really enjoy this one. It was, you know, the spice was, it was okay. I think it was an okay amount, not too much. Sometimes I find with spice it just goes on and on and on a bit too much, but I didn't think it was too much in this book. I think any more would have sort of tipped me over the edge a bit. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. 4-star rating, a really solid installment in this series, and now I only have one final book left in this series, which I'm excited for but actually kind of sad about, because then I've got no hockey Elle Kennedy books. Oh no, I do. I've got the next three, like the Graham Effect, to read, but yeah, I'm kind of sad. Like, I don't have too much more of her books left. I'm really sad about that. So yeah, 4 stars for this one. So the next book I'm going to be reading for this vlog is going to be Queen Bee by Juno Dawson. So I have read another book for this reading vlog, which is Queen Bee by Juno Dawson. This is a prequel novella cover to the Her Majesty's Royal Coven series. So in Her Majesty's Royal Coven, we have a coven of witches who are all living up north, and a prophecy is told that there will be a child who will bring about the end of the world, and the witches decide to try and change this prophecy and protect the child, and we kind of go from there, and they unravel a whole sort of conspiracy amongst their own coven as well. And it was a really, really good series so far. I've only read the first two. The final one has actually just released, and I've finally got around to reading the prequel novella. So the prequel is about Anne Boleyn and her coven of witches. So we follow two timelines. We follow, I think, 1526 and 1536. We have some time spent as Anne. She is the mistress to the king, and then obviously she becomes the queen. And then in 1536 we follow her execution and the aftermath of that. Now, I gave this a 3-star rating. I think maybe it's more of like a 2.5. I really struggle to enjoy and like rate novellas. I do think this could have benefited from being a full-length novel actually. I think that the sort of 160 odd pages that we got of this just wasn't really enough to tell the story. I feel like we only got snippets of what happened, and I thought we were going to see like the coven working together and things like that, and it was more of a few snippets of the rise of Anne Boleyn to becoming the queen, and then this relationship that she had with one of her ladies in waiting, which was really underdeveloped because obviously it was only a short novella, and then the aftermath of her death and kind of what happens to the witches after that. And I feel like this was just a little bit all over the place. It could have benefited from being a full-length novel just to explore all the different storylines in a lot more detail. I think it would have been so much better to have more detail about her rise to power and being a witch, because it wasn't really focused on the witchcraft. There was a few aspects of it used, but not really the focus. It was more of like the relationships and like the revenge, and it just wasn't really great compared to the first two books in the series. I just don't really think this is all that good. I think, yeah, if this was longer, it would have definitely been a lot better, but at least I've read it now. It just wasn't really what I was expecting. I was expecting more detail about, like I said, like Anne Boleyn's rise to being queen, and then the coven working together, and how maybe the coven was affecting the running of the country, because I mean, if, you know, Anne Boleyn is the queen, surely they would have some influence over the country. And then the downfall, because we kind of, yeah, we just didn't really get what I wanted from it. I think we were missing a lot of key components, and yeah, it was just kind of like a 2.5 or a 3 really. I think it should have been a full-length novel really, but at least I've read it now and I can finally get around to the final book in this series. Hey guys, so I'm just coming in to wrap this reading vlog up, as I have started and finished The Summer I Saved You by Elizabeth O'Rourke, and I'm going to give this one a 3-star rating. So in this one we follow our main character Lucy. She is a newly separated mother of 2. She has 6-year-old twins called Sophie and Henry is definitely got some additional needs. Now, she moves back to this sort of quiet town. So her current husband Jeremy, who they are separated, he is an absolute asshole. Like, he sends her really nasty text messages. Nothing that she can do is right. Even when they were together, he was very like patronizing and nasty towards her, and he can't accept the fact that she has decided to leave him, because he always tried to make it so that she was so dependent on him. She moves back to her aunt's house, who is passed away, and she moves back into the house, and she lives next to Caleb. Now, Caleb, she had a crush on when she was a teenager, but it never went further than that, and as far as she's aware, she never knew that Caleb was even aware of her presence. And she gets a job as kind of like a morale booster at Caleb's company. Now, Caleb doesn't really want anyone to have this job, because he thinks that employees should be grateful for just having a job, and, you know, the paycheck is the thanks kind of thing. Why does he need to boost morale kind of thing? But one of his other, I don't know if it's like partners or what, but thinks that this job is necessary, and Lucy gets the job. She doesn't actually have much experience in the corporate world. She's never worked prior to this, as Jeremy did pay for everything, and that's how he set it up, so that she was so dependent on him. So Lucy and Caleb obviously come across each other, and he's very dismissive of her and doesn't think that she's going to last very long, and he basically says, just use this job to look for another job, because I want you out of here in like 2 months. So instead she comes up with some actual ideas to boost morale. Now, I was a bit like traumatized by this book a little bit, because the things that she comes up with are things that like my company that I work for have done, and I'm just like, no. So there's like a walking competition and things like that, and it's just like, I feel like anyone who works in corporate just like knows the sort of things that Lucy came up with, and I'm just like, No, don't do it. Don't do it to us. And then obviously Lucy and Caleb, they spend a lot of time together and they eventually fall for one another. Now, I gave this book a 3-star rating. I did enjoy a lot of the side characters a lot more than our main couple. I just didn't really love the main couple. I feel like Lucy was way more into Caleb than Caleb was into her. I feel like Caleb only wanted her to have sex with. He didn't really want a relationship, and there was a whole sort of plot line between them of he didn't really want anything to do with her kids. Now, I don't have children, so I'm not really one to like comment on this, but from my knowledge of things of like family members who have split with children and then gone on to date other people, is that like you're not introducing your new person, your new guy or your new gal to the kids like on the first date. And it seems like that's what Lucy did. Like Lucy was straight away like, oh, these are my children, and it must have been quite a lot for Caleb to sort of take on. Like, you're still getting to know Lucy and then suddenly you got the kids thrown in. I understand, you know, the kids come as a part of Lucy, but it just seemed very quick. And then Lucy was very like, what do you mean you don't want to spend time with my children? Why would he? He's a young single man. Like, it was just a bit like, I feel like she had quite high expectations of him, and I don't think he was unreasonable in wanting to distance himself from the children just in case it didn't work out between them. Like, I don't think that was unreasonable of him. And she even like proves her own point, because at one point Caleb gets quite busy with work and he's not able to help Henry with a school project, and Henry gets really upset and she's like, look what you've done to my child. And it's like, you were forcing him to spend time with your children when he clearly wasn't ready to, and like, you don't even know if he's your boyfriend, and you can't even explain to your children what he is to you, and yet you expect him to like drop everything for your child. It was just a bit like, I thought she was quite unreasonable there personally. And then yeah, I just thought that she was way more into him and really wanted to like settle down really quickly with him. It was just a bit like much. And I don't think, like, you know, ever have that like couple that you read about and you think they are like getting divorced in the next book, like this is them. I don't really feel like they're actually gonna last, but like they obviously do, because I've read the epilogue. I'm just sort of like, I didn't love them together. I did like the setting and like the characters that we've read a bit about in the previous book as well. These are obviously all interconnected standalones, but it was just, yeah, it was just like a 3-star. It was all right, it was good. It wasn't quite 4-star. I didn't love it. I'm hoping that maybe the third one gets a bit better, because so far the first two have been like a 3-star read. I mean, they are quick, they are short, so it's got that going for it, and it's very like, I do like the surfing, and like the sort of town that is set in is like really quite cute. But yeah, I just didn't really love this couple. I didn't love this book. It was just like a 3-star to me, but it was quite an easy read, which sometimes I just want. I don't expect every book to give me a 5-star. Sometimes I just want like something quick and easy, and that's what this was really. So yeah, 3 stars for this one. Glad I read it. I'm definitely excited to read some of the other couples that we've kind of got hints about in this series so far, so maybe it will pick up for me in the later book. So that's the end of this video, where we've made some more progress in series that I'm currently in the middle of. Comment down below if you've read any of these books. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. Please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.